Number when I accidentally sent Smut to my boss. 1. Me. Boss. The document I submitted. Did you see it? Boss. I saw it. Me. Then you agree? Boss. I've been staring at this chat record for 3 hours now, and the text on the screen seems to be mocking my stupidity. Because I sent the smut, I stayed up all night writing last night the abstinent boss's forced love to my boss as my resignation letter. Even more terrifying. He replied, agreed, in seconds. When I realized it, it was already too late to recall it. Even though I tried to explain, he just replied with a faint, I closed my eyes in despair, but those unsightly sentences from the document floated before my eyes. His slender fingers gripped her chin, his low, husky voice rapped in desire. Say my name. The words dissolved in my mind, reassembling into lewd images that played on a loop. I was losing my mind. I buried my head in my arms on the desk. This time it's really over. 2. But things didn't go at all how I expected. Boss, Chi-yan, after replying with that actually took 3 days off. The whole company was buzzing with discussion. Some said he was sick, some said he went on a business trip, and there were even ridiculous rumors that he went on a blind date. And I, every day, waited on edge for HR to notify me to process my resignation, but the news never came. Did he run away? On the 4th day, Chi-yan finally came to work. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit that accentuated his broad shoulders and long legs. His handsome face, usually cold and indifferent, showed no emotion. Only there seemed to be a faint, dark circle under his eyes. What exactly did he do these past 3 days? I gathered my courage and carefully stopped him during lunch break. Boss, you wouldn't go back on your word, would you? Chi-yan paused, turned to look at me, his pitch-black eyes unfathomably deep. No. I breathed a sigh of relief, then asked, then when can I process the resignation? He was silent for a few seconds, then suddenly said, tonight. Me? Resignation has to wait until tonight? What kind of strange process is this? 3. As a result, as soon as work ended, Chi-yan disappeared. I stood in the empty office building, furious. Are you playing with me? Colleagues invited me to dinner, but I forced a smile and shook my head, walking home alone with my head down. Forget it. Tomorrow I'll just submit a paper resignation letter. But when I reached my doorstep, a tall, slender figure was leaning against my door, a cigarette between his fingers, unlit. His suit jacket was casually draped over his arm, his tie loosely undone, revealing a section of his sharp collarbone. It was Chi-yan, my boss. My heart skipped a beat, and I stammered, Bo? Boss? What are you doing here? He raised his eyes to look at me, his voice low and husky. Came to find you. The atmosphere instantly became subtle. 4. About the resignation. I tried to explain, again, with difficulty, that the resignation letter was sent by mistake, but as soon as I opened my mouth, Chi-yan suddenly interrupted me. Why don't you call me by name anymore? I froze, meeting his slightly reddened eye corners. For a moment, I felt like I was back 6 years ago. Back then, he was just a poor guy who had just graduated and started a business, and I was his first employee. We squeezed into a tiny office, working late into the night on proposals. When I was so sleepy I was groggy, I would tug at his sleeve and say, Chi-yan, I'm so tired. Later, as the company grew bigger, he became the decisive President Chi, and I became more and more afraid to call his name. I lowered my head. We're not in the same relationship as before anymore. Chi-yan suddenly grabbed my wrist and pinned me against the wall. Then what about now? His breathing was hot, his voice so low I could barely hear it. Those things in the document, are they what you really want to do to me? He held up the manuscript in his hand. I vaguely saw some unsightly descriptions on it. They were even highlighted with a fluorescent pen. Old pervert, I thought to myself, but my face uncontrollably turned red. That's all fake. Fiction, but I'm real. He lowered his head, getting close, the tip of his nose almost touching mine, his hot breath wrapping around me. These 3 years, you distanced yourself from me. I endured it. You joked and laughed with others. I endured that too. But now, his fingers brushed over my lips, his voice husky as he asked, even resigning, do you have to use this way to hint at me? That's just my creative hobby. I sent the wrong document. Didn't I already explain that to you? I explained anxiously, backing away continuously, until my back slammed against the door with a bang. Chien didn't move, but his eyelashes trembled slightly. His voice was very light. Creative? So when you described the female lead being pinned on the desk, that was fiction too? My scalp went numb. The original text of that passage was, his usually abstinent Adam's apple rolled, letting her unbutton his shirt, dark waves surging in his eyes. Of course it's fake! I snatched the manuscript from his hand, the paper rustling in my panic. You can find 800 plots like that on any website. Chien finally stood up. His shadow completely enveloped me, his overwhelming masculine presence making it hard to breathe. But you wrote about me. He braced one hand against the door by my ear, effectively trapping me, while his other hand gently tipped my chin up. The things described inside include the pen I often use, my suit even. His thumb brushed over my wildly beating carotid artery. The position of the old scar on my right shoulder is exactly the same. I was speechless, because only I knew about the old scar on Chien's body. It was a rainy day. We were working overnight in the warehouse for a project. When he was carrying equipment, a metal frame tore his shirt, leaving a winding scar below his collarbone, soaked in sweat. At that time, my hands were shaking so much I couldn't help him bandage it. In the end, he bit the bandage and tied the knot with one hand himself. The memory burned my eyes. I pushed him away forcefully. Ji-Yen! This was the first time I called his name since we reunited. Look clearly. What is our relationship now? His expression stiffened. You're President Chi, and I'm a small employee who can be dismissed at any time. I gripped the resignation letter in my hand. All these years while you were flying high, I was working overtime until 3 a.m. on the 22nd floor alone. When you had scandals with other female CEOs, I was still being a workhorse at the company. Now you're using the erotic trash I casually wrote to play the devoted lover. In the darkness, his breathing suddenly became heavy, the force gripping my wrist so hard it hurt. You think I'm playing with you? Then what? I raised my voice to hide my trembling. Are you saying the great President Chi has been secretly in love with a small employee for 6 years? I clearly saw the blood vessels spread instantly through Chien's eyes. He suddenly pulled me into his embrace, and when his trembling kiss landed on the top of my head, I heard his voice, so hoarse it was unrecognizable. Yeah, I'm just an idiot. 5. At 2 in the morning, we sat on the sofa, facing each other across a cup of cold coffee. So, you want to resign because of what? He stared at the crumpled resignation letter on my knee. Because you think I'm high and mighty? I lowered my head, fidgeting with my fingers. And last Friday, you rejected my proposal in front of the whole department. He paused, then suddenly stood up to get his suit jacket. Before I could react, he had already taken out a leather notebook from his inner pocket and slapped it on the coffee table. Turn to page 37. On the yellowed pages, densely packed with dates and annotations. March 14. Jiangning's Plan A is very creative, but cost control is insufficient. Have finance recalculate. May 22. She's suitable for leading a team independently. Add her to the promotion list for next quarter. The latest page read, July 8. She dodged me again. How long is she going to pretend not to know me? I slammed the notebook shut. Why do you record these things? Otherwise? He smiled bitterly, tilted his head back, and drank the entire cup of cold coffee in one go. Ever since the company moved to the financial center, you never call my name anymore. In group photos, you always hide in the furthest corner. Even when you drew a dance with me at the annual party, you made an excuse to go to the bathroom. He suddenly reached out and wiped away tears I didn't know had fallen. Jiangning, the one who's been running away has always been you. I opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound. So he knew everything. Knew that because of my inferiority, I had long lost the courage to stand beside him. So the saying is true. The first sign of love is feeling inferior. The more you know he's in the clouds, the less you dare to reach out and touch him. 6. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed. After saying you're the one who ran away last night, Chi Yen quietly left, leaving only a pair of slippers neatly arranged at the entrance. There was a message on my phone from 5 a.m. Ji Yen, don't come to work today. What is this? Firing me. I was so angry I immediately called back, but the moment it connected, I heard his exhausted coughing. Where are you? I unconsciously tightened the bedsheet. On the other end of the phone came car horns and his weak voice. The hospital. I ran downstairs without even putting on socks. When I found Chi Yan in the emergency room, the nurse was holding his blood test results and lecturing him. Gastritis plus a fever of 39 degrees. Do you elites all think you're made of iron? And he looked at me at the door with a pale face. His first words. Where are your socks? 9. In the hospital room, I saw the search history on his phone. 1. The real reason an employee suddenly resigns. 2. How to tell if the person you have a secret crush on hates you. 3. What to do when you're written into Smut. Chi Yan. I blushed as I tucked his blanket corner. These past few days, have you been sleeping properly? He closed his eyes. First day, I corrected it until 4 a.m. Second day, I stared at the design drafts revising until dawn. Third day, he suddenly started coughing violently. I hurriedly pressed the call button, but he grabbed my wrist. These are all excuses. Actually, for these 3 years you've been avoiding me, I've had to rely on sleeping pills to fall asleep every day. So, it wasn't just me pretending. He was acting too. Acting as the decisive President Chi. Acting as the Chi Yan who couldn't feel pain. Acting until he even believed it himself. Until that ridiculous document that portrayed him as a prisoner of desire tore apart all the disguises.